So it's out with the old, in with the new. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the chaos. If you're new here, I'm Ryan, and we're actually gonna be tackling a little project on my 2000 Mustang GT. So this should work for any new Edge. And I actually picked up, this was back at Hyperfest, I picked up an MPI steering wheel, and not just any steering wheel, but kind of the Vaughn Gittin Jr. special. So we have the Fun Haver wheel, and I've kind of sat on this thing for a while because I wasn't sure. I love the design of the wheel itself, but I wasn't sure which car I wanted to throw it in. But since Vaughn is notorious for his Ford Alliance and specifically Mustang, I figured it was only proper that we actually threw in the new Edge. So I picked up our steering wheel and then kind of a hodgepodge of other supporting parts. So this car does have cruise control. I really don't want to lose that. So the cruise control is mounted to the steering wheel currently. Well, I picked up, this is actually for a 370Z. So I'm hoping we can kind of adapt this to work with our cruise control buttons in the car. But this is from D&D, and it's just a cruise control mount. So it should kind of mount in between our wheel and our hub. So speaking of hubs, we got a NRG hub, short adapter, and I'm hoping to just be able to use these three parts. So our short hub, cruise control adapter, steering wheel. But if we need more room, I have actually picked up also an NRG quick release. So I have one of these, I have kind of like a similar setup in my 350Z, and that one I wanted the quick release. This one I'm hoping to get away without it, but with the cruise control being mounted in there, we might need the extra room that the quick release will allow. So I went ahead and disconnected the battery. So that's actually had time to sit and kind of should be good so the airbag doesn't blow up in our face. But we're gonna hop in the car and see exactly what we need to do to actually start disconnecting the steering wheel and get it uninstalled. So we can throw our new fun parts on there. In order to even see like what we're working with and how to get to the bolts, there's like these two little plastic caps on each side of the steering wheel. I'm just gonna pop those off. I've got my little pry tool, hopefully that'll work, and just carefully pry back on those little plastic tabs and expose whatever bolts are underneath. I have our little plastic tabs off, and it's actually an 8mm underneath. So I'm gonna grab that and then pull those bolts out of each side. And I think that should release like the center section where the airbag is. And then we can start unhooking some wires. But let's get the bolts out of the side first. Now I feel a little better, a little safer. So once that airbag is out, I'm just so nervous every time I mess with one of those things that it's just gonna blow me in the face. So don't want that. But now that that's out of the way, I can breathe now and focus. But it was just like a little bitty like metal clip. So the clip actually detaches first, and that allows you to actually pull the airbag itself. So now that that's out of the way, now let's see what we have to do to actually disconnect the wheel and our cruise control and all the, because there's a few more wires we got to mess with first before we can actually get the wheel off. But let's see what we're working with. This was our big main airbag wire. We've got the wiring for the cruise control switches, or these black and blue wires back here. And then I actually don't know if this is the horn or if parts of the airbag, I'm not sure, but these should slide off. I don't really know, but this is what it looks like so far. Well, this kind of sucks. The center bolt is actually like the star bits. It's a T50, so it's the biggest one. Unfortunately, I don't have one for a socket. On a socket, the biggest one I have goes up to T45, but I got this little hand T50, so we're gonna try it with this. I don't know how tight it is. I would imagine it should be pretty doggone tight because that's what's holding your wheel on, but we're gonna give this a shot and see if we can break it loose. Got my heart no in a bed. Break you hand in. Well, this is nice. Without the steering wheel in place, it doesn't obstruct my view of the camera, so that's a plus. I'm not gonna lie, that was way more difficult than I thought it would be. I mean, I guess what, the car is 23 years old, it's 2000, so it's been on there quite a while. But yeah, just shook the heck out of it, pulled like crazy, and you think you're gonna break it, but I promise you're not. And then like it had me second guessing, like, is there something else attached that I'm not seeing? But no, it's literally just that center nut, and that's it. But the one thing I would recommend before you actually start tugging and pulling, because once I actually got it broke free, well then of course there was an extra wire attached. So at the very top, like, you got two main wires, like your airbag wire, and I'll be honest, I don't know what the black wire is, if it's a horn or cruise control or just like power to all that stuff, who knows. But that was actually connected up here at the top of our wheel. So then as it's dangling, now I'm trying to get that out of there. But yeah, old steering wheel is off. Like I said, I'm trying to retain cruise control, so we're gonna throw this up outside the car and see if we can get these buttons and everything off. Originally I was hoping, because like I said, I picked up the 370 cruise control adapter, and the reason I picked that one up is because it has like the dual like stems off of the wheel. So this steering wheel has on off on one side, resume, accelerate, and coast on the other. I actually tested it because I was thinking, well, if I could at least ditch the on off switch, you know, I figured like once you hit set, it would kind of activate the system, but that's not the case. You actually have to hit the on button for it to activate the cruise control. So we got to have both switches, so it's gonna be interesting. But we'll throw this outside the car and try to get that off. But I'm gonna show you what all is left. So most people, if you're ditching the cruise control, if you don't want to try to retain it, then you can move on to the next step. But I really like my cruise control. I take this on a lot of trips, so it'd be nice to have if I can make it work. I'm gonna try to. If you don't care about cruise control, then you're all set. You can start hooking the hub up. But these are the two wires. Like I said, the yellow was the airbag, black, not 100% sure what it was or what it does, but these are your two wires you got to worry about. I'm just going to start with removing the buttons themselves and see if there's any type of plug, because I don't think the wire is like hardwired all the way through. We'll see, but hoping there's some type of plug. So once I actually get the cruise control buttons off, then I can kind of trace the wire from there. But let's get those buttons off. Well, I'm a little bummed out because I don't think I'm gonna be able to run cruise control, or at least not today, with my current parts. And like I said, I was trying to hodgepodge stuff together because I couldn't find, and if you are able to find like some kind of like bracket to mount the cruise control switches to, then I can try again. But I know I have to hit the drawing board if I can't find anything, because I scoured the internet before and came up empty. But I'll try to get creative again. But the 370 ones don't work, and I'll show you why, because they're just a completely different shape. So the way this 370Z panel works is obviously like your wheel is mounted here, but then these cruise control buttons kind of sit on the side. I mean, like you can see the mounting point. There's the screw hole at the top, and it's kind of like an offset screw at the bottom. So I mean, like I kind of already knew that was gonna be an issue, but I was hoping like I could at least get like, and they're hardwired. That's what that's what sucks. And I was trying to so hard, like I didn't want to cut the wire, and that might be what you have to do, but I was trying to avoid having to cut the wires. But even just kind of looking at like the way that they want to sit on this thing, like I just don't think it's gonna work. So obviously I could flip flop them, so like this one kind of looks more natural, like it wants to sit on this side, which is fine. I mean, I could put the on off on the right and coast and cruise, you know, set the cruise control on the left. That doesn't matter. So, but it just doesn't line up enough. And even, I mean, technically I could flip this bracket over, but even still, things just don't align like they should. So, and again, this wasn't made for a Mustang, so there's a reason why, but kind of does suck. And maybe to give you a better understanding, so this is the 371, obviously, with our nice pretty MPI wheel, and it's supposed to sit behind there like that, so the cruise control buttons would be kind of tucked in there behind it. Realistically, you could flip it over and use it like this as well. So I thought between one of those two options, it would work, but clearly it will not. Well, now that I've conceded, at least for today, not to have cruise control, we're going to start by installing like the hub adapter. So there's a white dot, and then should be like the NRG logo as well. Should be straight up and down, but you're going to line that dot, and it actually should, it's kind of, should make sense as far as like how you want to install this. But yeah, make sure that white dot, and you want to make sure the steering wheel as well, when you first start the install, is pretty much almost straight up and down. So mine's cocked a little to the left, but just gonna make sure this dot lines up with that arrow on your where your steering wheel was. So I'm gonna install this first and then deal with all the wiring, like the horn, and make sure our airbag light doesn't come on. So we'll deal with that wiring after we get the hub adapter on there. So you can see there's kind of like a provision over here for your wires to tuck through. And then I've put our center nut back on and gave it a few ugga-duggas just to make sure you don't want this going anywhere. So this is what's going to hold basically your steering wheel in place. So this is on there nice and firm. Hub adapter is on, and I'll make sure like I leave all the part numbers and everything like that, because you want to make sure you get the correct hub adapter. That way it covers all this ugliness so you don't have to have any type of plate or anything behind there. But yeah, I'll make sure everything I'm using I'll link down below. But now that we got the hub adapter on, we have a choice as far as, do I want to use the quick release or not? So I'm just gonna grab the wheel, put it up here, and just see how it would feel if it were connected straight to the hub, or do we want to run it with our quick release? Got some decisions to make. At the moment, the wheel is just being held up, propped up by my knees, but this kind of gives me an idea of like where it would land if it were just directly bolted to the hub. And it's kind of hard to tell, but the stalk for my turn signals, there's a very difficult to hold with just my knees, but there's about the same amount, I feel like, of space between the stalk and then the wheel itself. So this isn't actually a bad position. I feel like it's pretty much close to stock. So I don't know, I might actually throw the quick release. That's going to add quite a bit of depth, but I might throw the quick release on there. Plus I think it'll look better, so my knees would hold this wheel. I think it'll look pretty good with like our neochrome quick release on there. So we might throw this up here. Well, I'll be honest, this install has kind of taken a downturn really quickly. So I do have the battery plugged back in because we're about to mess with the wiring for the airbag and stuff, and I just want to make sure the light doesn't come on. But like I said, we've kind of gone downhill because originally I had aspirations to have the cruise control hooked up. That went out the window. And then I had aspirations to have a horn button. Well, and this is failure on my part, but the fun haver looks like a horn, but it's just a block off plate. So obviously it's not going to do anything. There's no point in trying to even wire something up where there's no button to push. So we're going to go forgo all of that. And I mean, again, it's the name of the channel. It's Chaos Car Club. There's chaos with everything you do. So I don't know if you're a car guy, you know how installs, they start out, you have high hopes that everything is going to go smoothly, and then once you actually get your hands on with the project, you're like, this ain't it. So we're just going to roll with the punches and deal with what we got. So I need a steering wheel, and I don't want to put the other one back on. So at this point, we're basically just going to make sure that we don't have their airbag light. We want that to stay off. And then I'm just going to put the horn block off plate for now. So then in a later video, we will have to address adding the horn and then adding the cruise control back. Because again, I tore this car around like all the way from the mountains, the beach, and in between. So need that cruise control. That's beneficial. Keeps me from getting tickets as well. So very crucial. But for now, we're going to, it just comes with like these little resistors, so it kind of basically like tricks the airbag and tells us it's there when it's not. So it's the big yellow wire, if you'll remember. Doesn't matter which side of these resistors you stick it into, but there's like 3 little prong holes. It goes into the far outside ones. And so I'm just going to stick that resistor in there, and then like the hard part is getting it to actually stay in there, because it just doesn't, the hole's too big and these resistors are too small. So gonna grab some electrical tape and just make those resistors stay in there. But we'll do that, and then we can throw our wheel on and see what she looks like. brief pause to explain something. So I initially had put the hub adapter on there and like tightened that center nut down really tight and everything. Well, then I realized like there's not really that much room for all these wires to go. So I ended up having to take the hub back off, and I don't know if you noticed, but like I checked to make sure when I tucked that wire back in the pocket that I actually took the key, turned the ignition on, like didn't turn the car over, but just to make sure like our airbag light would go off, because I would hate to get everything bolted down nice and tight and stuff like that and then have to redo what I've already redone. So a lot of it on and off. Like I thought once I put this thing on here it would stay, but that's not the case. But now it should be good because now there's enough wires. Like the only thing that I've really tucked back in that pocket was the airbag wire, and we should never, even in the future when we touch the horn and hopefully cruise control, we shouldn't need that airbag wire. So it should stay locked in that pocket and be secure and safe. So now we can put our wheel on, but let me show you kind of what our setup looks like underneath. So our yellow airbag wire is what's really tucked back down in there. That's why I took the whole hub off, so that way I can get it down there in that pocket really well. And then I just left, there's like 2 wires just loose in there, but they'll fit no problem. So that way I can put the wheel up here, because the wheel just connects these 6 bolt holes. So that's all we have left to do. Well, we kind of had to pivot and call an audible throughout the day, but the end result, I love the way this looks. So even without the quick release in there or without the cruise control, that kind of thing. So just the wheel itself, oh, looks phenomenal. I'm loving it. So, and even honestly, I really like the distance between the wheel now that it's actually like hard mounted and I'm not having to hold it with my knees. I actually like the spacing. So I think the quick release would bring it too close to me and cause quite too much of a distance between my hand and then the turn signal. So if we have to use it with the horn when we get to that point, we will, but I don't know. For now, I'm loving this, and we'll rock this for a little bit. One thing I do want to triple check is make sure our airbag light stays off. So I'm just gonna throw the key in the car, turn the ignition, not turn the motor over, but all my lights have come on, got the airbag light at the moment, boom, and it's off. So that's exactly what I wanted to see. So perfect. So at least that's clutch. Don't have a horn or cruise control, but at least we don't have an airbag light. So that's a plus. Things never go according to plan. That's not how life works. So that comes with the chaos, and it's how you adapt and overcome. So that's exactly what we did today. And I'm ecstatic with the way that our wheel turned out. So though we don't have our cruise control and our horn, that's fine. We'll take care of that in part 2. So make sure you stick around for that. But I just love the way this looks. Like I think it's just enough spice to complete the interior of the car. Like not get too crazy, not draw the eye, not overwhelm you, but just enough. And I love the way this wheel feels. So it's like that perfect, it's not too thick, not too thin. It just feels really nice in your hand. And this is nice, that MPI leather feels really good. So I'm very happy with the outcome. But like I said, make sure you stick around for part 2. I promise you we're gonna get those things working. But if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch y'all on the next one.